And greetings, happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. We're going to be joined here in just a few moments by our editor-in-chief, Matthew Peterson, for the Deace Group. We are brought to you by our friends over at Preborn. This has been a very generous partnership between us and Preborn over the last several years. We have literally helped them save tens of thousands of babies, but also their mamas as well. Preborn's whole ministry is to love women, empower them by making the choice for life. It's an eternal moment, like with Briella, for example. She was ready to take the abortion pill and murder her child. But when the abortion pill never came, she decided to go to a pregnancy clinic, and after receiving a free ultrasound provided by Preborn, that's when her eternal moment happened. Not only did her baby wave, but then she realized that this was the baby boy that she prayed for. And who knows, it might have been one of you in this audience that put up the $28 for that ultrasound that changed both Briella and her baby son's life for all of eternity. All right, so when you support Preborn, you're supporting pro-life clinics nationwide with free ultrasounds to help empower a mother to choose life, and then they're there for the mom after she chooses life as well. Your tax-deductible donation for as little as $28 a month could save souls, literally, and as well as lives. So if you want to get involved, simply dial pound 250, say the keyword baby on your mobile phone. That's pound 250, keyword baby on your mobile phone, or keep it simple. Preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve. All right, next hour, it'll be Feedback Friday. I mentioned our editor-in-chief, Matthew Peterson, is here with us. I believe, Matt, this is the first time you've ever been here for the Deace Group. Is that right, Todd? I think so.
Yes.
Yep. I mean, you've been on the show numerous times, but never for the Deace Group, which when we told you, I'm sure either Todd or Aaron told you, what we'll do is just completely rip off the McLaughlin Group, and you're like, you don't really do that. No, we just completely rip it off. You'll see that in a second. We ripped everything off, okay? But we would be remiss if we didn't take a minute while you were here, okay? The reporting that we are doing on Congressman Cory Mills, and my understanding of reporting that is also forthcoming in the not too distant future. I just want to give you a second to promote what we're doing here, why we're doing this, and why our audience wants to make sure they pay very careful attention to this story and where it may ultimately go.
Yeah, well, first, before I say anything serious, this is serious. Never be boring. No, don't be boring. I don't want to be boring. And this story has everything you could possibly want in a story. It's so outrageous. It's hard to believe any part of it is true. We have a congressman who went to a Muslim mosque to be married to an Iraqi gal. And it was a radical, the Al-Qaeda mosque, the little Al-Qaeda mosque in America. He was married by a radical mufti who was a unindicted co-conspirator in two different terrorist acts in America. He says he didn't realize that at the time. He needed to do it to help his wife. But the interesting thing is they start an international arms company within a year of doing that. And within a year of starting the international arms company, they have a $200+ million contract with Iraq, like you do in a startup.
As one does.
And this guy ran. Yes. Yeah, it's normal. And then he ran as MAGA. There's sex. The whole thing is so crazy. I just encourage people just to read the articles we put out about Cory Mills so far. And again, I'm not about attacking people, but in general. But I am about, now that MAGA MAHA has won, I am about making sure we have the leaders we need and asking the question, can we do a better job vetting people in Congress? Because Congress is broken, as you all know. And the only way to fix it is if right-leaning networks start to clean house on our own side. So I'm happy to ask legitimate questions of anyone in Congress. It doesn't matter what their party is. That this movement deserves much better than that. And in this case, we asked questions, and this guy called one of my reporters and basically threatened us with a lawsuit because we asked what his religion was and who married him. That's literally all we asked him. And then this guy who's, I'm a big Trump MAGA guy, whatever, Cory Mills, big war hero, just flipped out. And that got my attention, and off we go from there.
Here's the reality. If we don't hold problems within our own side accountable, our enemies, like we saw, for example, in the North Carolina governor's race late last year, our enemies, Matt, are more than happy to do it for us, and at the time that would absolutely hurt us at the absolute most. You can rest assured of that.
Yes, that's exactly right. So if we don't do it, the left will, especially in egregious cases where, you have people just doing outrageous things. And I want to change the attitude in Washington that you can get away with this crap. You just say the magic words to, be protected by a party and get away with being a complete, out of control, corrupt individual. Like, we need to change that. And the only way to change that is if we start going after people and asking questions and are open and honest and transparent on air. And in this case, someone well known to your audience, Jill Savage, started asking some of those questions and did some incredible investigative work of her own that she's still involved with. And, I looked at it and thought, what are you talking about? Is this real? And it was real. And we're not going to stop.
I'll just say our audience knows Jill, has for years, loves her. She literally grew up listening to me on the radio here in Iowa, literally. Okay. And followed my exact same career path, first to sports, then to news and politics. And so if 50% of what she told me this morning when she called me, if 50% of this was true, holy cow. So, but that's what you guys do. You verify that stuff before you report it, and we'll wait to see what you guys come up with.
I'm telling you, there's another 100% you probably haven't even heard. I mean, that's the kind of story that this is, and I don't usually exaggerate. I'm the one poo-pooing everyone's stuff when they come to me. But I'm glad to be on the show. I mean, as your viewers know, like they brought me on the show because I'm just the better looking one, and that's why I'm here. And I'm sure they'll be delighted to see me instead of Jill.
Well, let's get to it. With that, it's time for the Deace Group. See, I told you, Matt, we just ripped the whole thing off. Like, the whole thing just ripped it all off. I told you. All right. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
Yeah, this is for all you YT South Afrikaners that are being shipped in by Trump. You need to know the majority of Americans don't want you here. You just jump back on another plane and fly your little racist YT supremacist butts right on back to your country.
I'm a pastor. Of course, I believe that all lives matter, but right now, black lives are the ones under attack.
They got this big celebration, and these are the only, white African descendants of apartheid, the European colonialists, or those who participated in apartheid. They're of all ages, including children.
I'm a pastor. Of course, I take seriously God's command to welcome those who are foreigners in your land, because you too were once strangers in a strange land.
We can't be ourselves in the Episcopal Church and take the step of resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa. Our church has a long commitment to racial justice and reconciliation, and we have historic ties with the Anglican Church of South Africa. Desmond Tutu is a part of, been a partner in this work for us. So we're just not able to take this step.
So the Trump administration, they're saying that essentially these white South Africans assimilate better, and they're also not as much of a security risk. That's really causing a lot of people to be appalled, frankly.
I'm a pastor. Of course, I believe in the separation of church and state, which means theology never gets codified into law.
I would like to recognize Miss Mansfield, especially, who is the best teacher my daughter has ever had. She lets her be as weird as she is, and she encourages it, and she enjoys it, and that is really meaningful to me and my family, because not having like a kid who's so. She calls my daughter Ellie Cat because during attendance, my daughter meows instead of saying here.
Anybody that did their research voted the right way. The people that had the information, they voted the right way. These are facts. The more educated voters and the voters that went to the legacy media, frankly, they voted the right way. It's the ones that were getting the fake news or the lies. They were the ones that were voting the wrong way.
And I've been having trouble sleeping. I really have. Moving to another country is a big upheaval for your system, and for your psyche, even though I freaking love it here. So I asked him if I could get Xanax, because, Xanax to sleep is fantastic. You take one, it puts you to sleep, and to me, I sleep the whole night. But he's like, I don't like to give Xanax. I'm like, you've been my shrink for so long. I've never abused any kind of med. I don't know why people would abuse Xanax, because all it does is make you sleepy.
I'm crying tears of happiness because my Uber driver stole my brown bag with my passport in it a month ago and refused to give it back. I told Uber I was gonna hang myself, and all they did was send me the suicide hotline. I finally got it after having to go through hell to find all my documents. And after all my psychiatrist appointments, my court documents, waiting years to have my gender changed. When I was working at McDonald's, fucking dumb, spray tan ass Trump just changed all the shit to make. And so trans people, if they lose their ID or they have an ID that's expired, it comes back their original gender, even if they have their social, their birth certificate, everything changed. And now I look hot, but it says male.
That's unbelievable.
It's been years and years.
Peterson, you got Cory Mills, but we're bringing that.
Spent years and years changing myself, mutilating myself. And after all that, I'm hot, but it still says male.
That was one of those I voted for this moment.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You bet.
I voted for this.
You bet. All right. First question, Matt, goes to you. As the guest, you get the first crack at this. What was the most detestable thing you just saw and why?
I'm going to go with the first video, the very first one, the way in which that woman just hates people because they're white, and everything about like kind of the way she performatively did it. I mean, it was well done. And to me, it represents one of the worst just moments of the week.
No doubt. And I mean, to see the head of the apostate Episcopalian church, well, we're into racial reconciliation and justice, which is why we really just need to leave those white people behind to get killed.
Complete with the vocal fry. We just can't take that.
Yes. I mean, that's the other thing is they've been getting away with these talking points for decades. And they don't get away with them anymore. And so they're forced to just come right out. I mean, Jasmine Crockett. Well, I mean, the people that watched you guys voted for us. We know. All right. So they just have to, they are so cornered now. They just have to say all these things out loud. We don't even have to tell. That's the thing that's made my job harder is I used to be able to burn a lot of content minutes telling our audiences what these people really meant. With the words that they used. I don't get to do that anymore. I got to come up with other stuff to talk about because now they're just flat out in the open telling us what exactly they think and who they really are. They're so cornered now that they're just being real with us. And so I got to come up with something else to talk about, you know? All right. So Todd, what about you?
Well, the going on for decades part is what's behind my answer because one of the godmothers of all of that insanity is in there. It's Andrea Mitchell. She's the worst. That's what's been going on for decades. In dulcet NPR tones, well, yes, of course it's okay to hate whitey. They deserve this. That's what got us here. And a lot of us for years, I'm not either right or left. I just want to be a nice person and get along. And they nodded their heads. You're right. It is okay to hate whitey. Right there. She's the next Nancy Pelosi, barely blinking on there because of all the plastic. Is she 100 years old herself? She's been around my entire. Hey, Steve,
she used to be married. She might even still be. She was married to Alan Greenspan for many years.
So
she was a White House correspondent when Reagan was president. She has been around forever. Yeah.
It's very important that she was in there because it speaks to exactly what you said, Steve. We have been buying this nonsense for a long time, and now it is in full bloom.
And this is just nothing more than voting demographics. I mean, if you go back to 1980, and we don't really have a lot of reliable exit polling and demographic. There's some, but not a lot of reliable on a quadrennial cycle by cycle basis prior to 1980. If you go back to 1980, white men have voted Republican every single election and by an average of about 22 points. So That's just what this is. You guys just don't vote the right way, so we have to take you out. I mean, we tried to manipulate you. We tried to do everything else. It didn't work, so we just have to remove you and institutionally erase you from society because you don't want to vote the way that we want. It's really just nothing more basic than that or complicated than that. Aaron.
So I think maybe one of the subtly funniest clips that's maybe ever been on Believe Lord Nefarious Says is Rosie O'Donnell. I love it in Ireland. I love it here. Believe me, it's
That's
great.
why I need Xanax.
I love it here. Also, I can't sleep, and it's Xanax o'clock, and my shrink won't give it to me. So that needs a special dispensation. But
she was once a very funny comedian, so maybe that is it. Maybe this is all a bit. We're just falling for it,
But the dude at the end, oh my goodness, maybe my favorite clip that we've had on this year.
Yes,
I love it so much. And usually, I've said often that maybe the bigger mental illness, if you want to use that term of art, the bigger mental illness is not necessarily the dudes who feel pretty, who are asking you to affirm them. The bigger mental illness is everyone in the background who knows better doing the golf clap. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, good job, good for you. I've always said that's the bigger mental illness. Not in this case. That's a sociopath there. That is a manipulative sociopath. Did you hear what he said? I had my passport stolen from my Uber, so I called Uber and threatened to kill myself if they didn't help me. That's
Emotional
a sociopath.
Blackmail.
Emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
And then the end, I spent all this time, all this money, all this time, I finally look hot, and points to the passport, but it still says male. I love it. I love it. Inject that into my veins.
Here's the thing. This will be interesting to see how you guys answer the exit question here, because there are some very wretched things in Aaron's montage this week, but I'm pretty confident we got more out of it than the intended targets did. Fair? So let's get to it on a scale of 1 to 10. With 1 being the odds, Matt's co-host on The Mandate and our friend Jill Savage has to worry about being sexually harassed by Lindsey Graham. And 10 being the odds that Matt right here does, brother. You do. Matt, watch your 6, brother. Watch your 6. All right? Rank this week's level of total depravity, Todd.
Still a 10.
It's still a 10. Yeah. Even with the laugh track?
Even
with? Aaron?
It's a 10.
Matt, what say you?
I mean, if I say 8, is that because it had some positive things
No,
for us?
not at all.
Is that okay? I think it was because it had some humorous, because it's not only at the end Trump's going, hey, guess what? You're a man. That was probably the pinnacle, but it also had that Rosie O'Donnell thing too, where she's talking about like, and I'm not addicted. It just makes you sleep. I mean, that reminded me of this old pothead who once in a debate with my father said, I've been smoking marijuana every day for 40 years and I'm not addicted to it. That was pretty good too. So
That's good.
I give it.
That's good. That's good indeed. All right, before we get to issue 2,
I'm probably going to get sexually harassed by Lindsey Graham like in a couple weeks when I go to DC next. It's almost happened a few times.
Bet. All right. I mean, you're the younger man now, Matt, in Lindsey Graham's world, brother. All right. Before we get to issue 2, don't forget about our friends over at realestateagentsitrust.com. In these unprecedented times,
Bing.
All right, and what's unprecedented is we have a real estate market again. At least we do in my neighborhood. There are 3, count them, 3 signs. For sale signs in my immediate neighborhood right now. We've been averaging about 3 a year. We got 3 right now. Right? So it's been a minute, probably pre-COVID, between lockdowns and then let's go, Brandon. It's been a minute since we've had a real estate market. We still have sky-high interest rates. They're still 126% higher than they were the day Joe Biden took over. Okay, so there's still a lot to navigate through. So now more than ever, make sure you've got an agent you can trust to help you do exactly that and navigate through it. You'll find that agent at realestateagentsitrust.com with a proven track record of success. And a lot of times they come from the audience here at The Blaze, so you have a value system in common with them as well. Realestateagentsitrust.com is where you want to go to get started at realestateagentsitrust.com. All right, let's get to issue 2. The new Pope's first week.
Spidey senses were a-tingling last week with the Catholic Church's election of the first American Pope, Robert Prevost, who goes by the name of Pope Leo XIV, mostly owing to the fact that he is an American, and he had a fairly lengthy Twitter rap sheet of retweeting radical Democrat senators calling for gun control, retweeting pointed criticism of Catholic Vice President J.D. Vance, and so on. But this week, a different picture has emerged of Pope Leo, a pope who has talked openly since his election about the challenges of technology relationship relationships in the 21st century and says things like artificial intelligence presents what he calls a Copernican revolution. Also, footage emerged of him in recent years, though still before being made a cardinal, not exactly speaking fondly of his predecessor, Pope Francis. And in a 2012 interview, Leo spoke openly about how he believes it's the church's job to equip people to critically think in order to break through the manufactured consent of the media. So is this a clearer picture of Pope Leo that we've seen in the past week, or more Francis-like confusion, just of a different kind?
It has been interesting as we are seeing a more complete vetting of Pope Leo occur with a full week to go. I'm reminded of the proverb. I've cited it many times on the show. One man's story seems true until you hear the other side. Okay. And just from my own ongoing research, there definitely appears to be, prior to the last few years of the Trump era, and a conglomerate of about 5 tweets that me, Sean Davis, and 6 or 7 other people made very famous last Friday. Okay. His prior social commentary does seem, those tweets aside, to line up much more with the kinds of things you would see and hear on networks like this, right? So, with a full week to digest Pope Leo XIV, what, if anything, are you reconsidering, Todd Erzen, from your first impressions?
No, I am fascinated to hear Matthew as well as another Blaze Catholic. But as you know, we did this in real time. The news broke on the show. Mm-hmm. And no secret how badly I wanted and needed an antidote to Francis. I don't think I fully understood how badly I needed because of having to do that in real time and drinking it through the fire hose. Those tweets make zero sense in the context of everything we've learned, especially what he said regarding AI. But they exist. And along with that, the speed at which the announcement came, the fact that he was an American, and now we know that means something far more nebulous that it applies to him specifically. But there's not many, there was nobody that was an American that's an archbishop in America that I was interested in having Pope. And then the fact that he was appointed by Francis to be in charge of the dicastery, which leads the way in pointing who the bishops are. That was dark. I was like, this is Francis 2.0. Mm-hmm. And you know it. And I said, I got to be honest with you. This is what I'm feeling. I don't want to try to paper this over. And my wifey, when I got home, she says, like, dude. But everything since then, it has been spirit-filled. I think I am getting a lot of Pope John Paul II to me, which is, I'm 52 years old. That is the template for who the Pope is supposed to be in a multitude of ways. I'm elated so far. I really am. I don't understand those 5. And everybody was right to point them out. There's nobody who should feel guilty about pointing those out. But they just are. They've been blown away by everything else. Read Rerum Novarum, one of the main reasons he chose to be Leo, from Leo XIII. It's breathtaking. The fact that Leo XIII was also the author of the St. Michael the Archangel prayer, which I pray every day. I've just found so much encouragement from this man. Just today, he's talking about the family and the unborn as a center point of building the church. It's been a good week.
All right, there you go. Matt Peterson, what do you think then as a fellow Catholic?
Oh, man, there's so much to say here. I haven't unloaded on this one yet. I mean, I guess first off, just realize I'm a very medieval Catholic. So, the story from the Decameron, there's a Jewish merchant and a Catholic merchant. And the Catholic merchant says to the Jewish merchant, you're a pretty good guy. I think you should convert and become Catholic. And the Jewish merchant's like, really? Okay. I'm going to Rome next year. I'm going to be there for a year. When I come back, after looking at Rome, I'll decide whether I convert or not. And the Jewish merchant comes back to the Catholic merchant after a year. And he says, hey, I'm in Rome, and I was in Rome for a year. And the Catholic's like, whoa, okay, how did it go? And he says, I'm going to convert to the Catholic Church. And he says, what? Why are you going to do that? What convinced you? And he said, well, I saw depravities that were worse than I could even imagine, and worse than I'd seen anywhere on earth. And I thought, if this church is still around, God must be protecting it. I mean, that's the medieval way, and that's the way I think about this. So I was immediately looked at all the signs, the Chicago way. This guy did whatever Francis wanted. I saw all the negative stuff, just like you guys. I didn't say anything. I just assumed the worst. And I still am a trust but verify, assume the worst guy, because we just really don't know. But one thing that's a lot of mitigated, there's a lot of other evidence that has come forth. The church is complicated. Now you have people saying maybe we have a sleeper cell on our side within the church, and this guy is one of them. There's a bunch of beautiful anecdotes coming out. I mean, his brother, just BoomerCon posting hardcore
yeah, I saw that.
On Facebook is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life. There's just amazing stuff. I mean, the media is shocked at the terrible things his brother is posting. The way he called his brother, and it was on air, and says, "Hey, what the hell? Why were you picking up your phone?" There's a lot to like about the guy. But we really don't know yet, right? And these things play out in interesting ways. I will say that I think what everyone's realizing is that Francis was really bad, and I don't think it was just ideological. I mean, there was something say wrong or defective about, I think, the way that he operated. I think he may have suffered from some kind of mental illness. It wasn't just ideological. He was very up and down and sort of unpredictable. And seeing this guy who's in good health and seems in possession of his faculties, I think that brings a lot of people a lot of hope for good reason. And so far so good. But it's been 5 seconds. Let's see what happens.
It sounds like you think in a span of about 2 weeks, granting some form of church marital recognition to homosexuals, and then sending out an email concerned about the, quote, faggotry within the priesthood. You kind of think that's a little up and down, Matt? A little unstable? That kind of when you seem to be hinting at that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And look, the big story, like the big picture story is very clear within the Catholic Church. It's that, I'm a medieval Catholic because it's almost like, I think people who aren't Catholic don't realize actually how decentralized it is. Like the Pope doesn't, it's like whatever's going on over there is great. It's always, a lot of times it goes. I know
this is actually my biggest criticism of your church to Todd. I'm like, I would actually appreciate it if you guys were like Catholic. Like, I want to see like a real magisterium. I want to see like real authority. I want to see like real excommunications. That's what I want to see. I want to see all that authority that freaks out most Protestants. I actually want to see it exercised. No pun intended there. Okay, but I wanted the other kind of exercised. EXE. Okay, not EXO. But all right, let's bring Aaron in real quick before we run out of time. Go ahead.
At the Mesite, we want more of it.
All right, Aaron, what do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, just giving the Protestant disclaimer. I don't believe the things about the Pope that Catholics and the Pope himself believes, but I recognize how much of an ally that seat can be in the mutual fight against Marxism, global homoism in the West. So I come to this from that perspective. And going off of what Matt was talking about, let's call it the temperament of Pope Francis, the stark contrast this week in the temperament between this Pope and the last one, that could not be more pronounced. And I think maybe it was just kind of the frog in the boiling pot type of thing with Pope Francis, where it was just weird all the time, and so you kind of just got used to it. That has been a stark contrast just 1 week in. I would just say, going back to that 2012 interview, where he talks about, and he didn't use the term manufactured consent, but in a span of about 2.5 minutes, Todd, I'm sure you've seen that clip that's gone around. That's basically what he's talking about in terms of media, in terms of appointed, anointed experts telling and programming the populace in terms of what to think and what to believe. That's what he described in terms of mass media, specifically the news media. And I found that interesting, that was right smack dab in the middle of Barack Obama's presidency, right in 2012. And he's making these observations and warning the church and saying, hey, this is your job. You need to make sure that people are catechized and have the ability, formation, and critical thinking, the critical thinking that's needed to bust through that manufactured
like stuff we say on our show.
Consent. Exactly. It sounds like the stuff we say on our show. It also kind of recalls the entire show that we did a couple of months ago on rapid onset political enlightenment and the proliferation of manufactured consent during the Obama administration. So I found that interview taking place when it did to be very interesting. So I think I am less concerned. Again, I'm coming to this as a Protestant. I am less concerned than I was a week ago. All
right, we don't have time for the exit question. We're up against the break. I think, though, with a couple of Catholics here, since we are talking about the new Pope, I do have time for a confession. And I must admit my shame. Chris points out to me via email that we just did a Lindsey Graham exit question with the co-host of the Mandate Show, and I never incorporated the term mandate into my Lindsey Graham blast to Matt Peterson. I mean, that was an obvious miss on my part. I am ashamed. Consider this my confession. All right. And I promise I will privately during this break, I'll give you 50 silent Lindsey Graham blasts in order to atone for this. Is that fair? Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm absolved. More in a moment. Yes. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, and we are powered by our friends at Taiga Coolers. It is good to have them back again. You're going to recognize the name. We've told you about them before. We're thrilled to have them back. They're the real deal, 100% American-made, built for people who still believe in self-reliance, craftsmanship, good old-fashioned freedom. If you've been with us for a while, you know I don't endorse junk. Taiga is the furthest thing from it. You guys might remember, they're the ones that did the special customized coolers for each of us that we cannot show you. Well, I could show you my nefarious one because I kind of own the copyright on that. Okay, but the other specialized ones that they did, we can't show you because we don't own those copyrights. Okay, but they I don't think we can even tell you what they were. We can just tell you though that you can probably guess, given the three of us. If it's a logo, we can't tell you what it is. We can't show it to you. We don't own the copyright. You can probably guess what it was, as I recall. And both of mine are still sitting in my garage.
Mine were just fine vinegars. That's all they were.
Yes, that's all they were. They were very, 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 very cool. All right. So you can customize these. You can just go with a plain old cooler if you want to do that as well. All right. 100% American made. You can't beat it. All right. Just go to Taiga, Taiga, TaigaCoolers.com. Get your custom cooler or maybe just an everyday cooler and built your way by folks who still believe in faith, family, freedom, and a free market just like you do. Tell them I sent you. They'll know exactly what that means. And if you use my code Steve, they'll give you 10% off as well. All right. So now that the spring is fully here, summer's just around the corner, Taiga Coolers, living the cooler life. Visit Taiga, Taiga, TaigaCoolers.com. Use the promo code Steve for the discount at TaigaCoolers.com. As we welcome back in our editor-in-chief here at The Blaze, Matthew Peterson. He's our guest for the Deace Group. Let's march on with your weekly look at the week that was. Let's get to issue 3. How about a MAHA wellness check?
It's been an interesting couple of weeks in the world of Make America Healthy Again. The replacement of Janet Neshewat with Casey Means for Surgeon General deeply divided MAHA, with some accusing Means of being a deep state op and others accusing RFK Jr. of HHS of being completely controlled. Adding to the frustration is that we're now in May and the COVID jabs have still not been pulled. This week, FDA Director Marty Makary says that change could be happening soon, at least for the childhood schedule.
Look, I'd love to see the evidence to show that giving young, healthy children another COVID shot, a sixth COVID booster would help them. But that evidence does not exist. And so we're not just going to rubber stamp things at the FDA. And I don't think you're going to see a push at the CDC to be pushing COVID shots in young, healthy children. That is something that's being discussed right now. I think you're going to see some announcement on that in the coming weeks. But I know they are trying to review all of the scientific data. And guess what? There's no data. There's no good randomized controlled data that the current version, the latest formulation of the COVID shot, is necessary for young, healthy children. Other countries have already recommended against it.
All right, so Matt, we've been talking about this throughout the course of the week, so I'm going to bring you in here first for a different perspective, just so you know, you may or may not know, but because you guys have Sarah Gonzalez down there, here in Des Moines, Todd is our Sarah. Okay. He's an OG anti-vax wingnut. And for many years, when he worked for me, I didn't care because I was vaxxed and I figured if I had to worry about him and his kids not being vaxxed, then what was the point of my vaccines, right? Now, since COVID, what's happened is I am finding myself moving slowly but surely into at least the camp of people like him that are because I'm asking the same questions that they are, right? And I think that, MAHA is in a unique situation in that it is given an immediate opportunity to govern in ways that previous insurgent movements, like the religious right, like the Tea Party, was not. Okay. And at the same time, unlike the Tea Party and the religious right, they are not they're not necessarily a coalition that is native to our side. There's some crossover, but they've largely, if anything, been more identified. That's RFK, for example, more identified with elements of the Democratic Party traditionally than our side, where the Tea Party and MAGA and Christian conservatism were disruptive elements that came from within the right to disrupt the status quo of the right. Right. So those things make it a little bit interesting. Are they going through growing pains here? Are they turning on each other? What's your concern level with MAHA right now after what you saw this week on a scale of 1 to 5? With 1, you're Alfred E. Newman, what me worry, okay, and then 5, you're Karate Kid, get him a body bag. Where are you at right now?
I'd say 2. Maybe 2 or 3. I'm actually pretty bullish on this. I think these are growing pains that are normal and that they're healthy. This is a new coalition, as you say, of people. It has, some prominent people within it associated with it, but it's actually on the ground. It's very large. There's a lot of people who care about this stuff and actually are aligned on a lot of issues. I don't think that the inter-MAHA stuff matters as much as people are saying. I'm more interested at HHS in sort of the tech teal bros who have a lot to offer, but also disagree with MAHA on some things, and that dispute. Jim O'Neill is an interesting guy who's number 2 there, comes from Teal world, and then you have RFK, and so I think MAHA and the greater coalition is where there's some interesting disagreements and potentially tensions that could resolve and lead to interesting outcomes. But I'm more worried about that long term. I think like this stuff about the Surgeon General and whatever. I don't see a lot of there. Now, then there's a concern about, are they getting enough done right within HHS? And to that, I would say, I don't know enough yet. I like to know 10 times what I say on air. It's a standard that I aspire to, but don't always achieve. And actually, I have a couple people at HHS that I'll be reaching out to. I've been meaning to see how things are going internally, the best I can, as journalist, and poke around a little bit, because I don't know enough to say. These are complicated questions. I'd give it another month or 2 before I really started to judge.
Okay. What do you think, Todd? That's Matt's perspective on something we've had our own internal dialogue about all week here on the show.
I'm also about it too. There's just several reports that I saw today that the COVID vaccine is going to no longer be mandated, and that's coming very shortly to children. And if you remember, the only reason it had to be mandated for children at all is because the only way you can mandate any vaccine, COVID or otherwise, if it's mandated to the entire population. So even though the kids don't need it, that's what they had to do. This is the magical power of vaccines. It's about that money. So backtracking from that, it doesn't have to be Donald Trump doesn't have to come out and do anything big and bold, and I'm suddenly against everything. This doesn't have to be a difficult play. But it's a 2 right now because of that. But I'll tell you what, this will go up to 4 or 5 because of everything you said about the MAHA coalition and its connections to this right now. They will burn this whole village down if they do not get not every concession, but they've been waiting way too long in the wilderness, and now's their chance. And I wouldn't blame them, because quite frankly, I don't know how long, but I'll be one of them too. This has to stop.
All right, Aaron, what do you say?
I think the tension that you're seeing right now is one of 2 kind of analogies. It's either this would be the bad thing. It's in the process of basically dead on arrival, something like that, where you're giving birth to a new movement, but what's coming of it is just it's stillbirth, basically. And I think you've used that term on the air as well. That's one thing, or it's another thing. It is the Jokers. You ever wonder what would happen when a dog finally catches the car? What's he going to do once he actually catches the car? It's one of I think it might be that. I'm kind of in that camp right now. Because, as Todd said, they've been wandering in the wilderness, and then boom, out of nowhere, freaking Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the head of HHS. That's going from 0 to 60 really fast. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people have maybe outsized expectations for the machine. the Feedback Friday letter that we got a few weeks ago. Here, you fill out form ZY-124 to accomplish this other form over here. Do you remember that letter that we got? The machinery of this Leviathan slows everything down to a snail's pace. So there's just a lot of people who want results right now, who are not accustomed to having this level of power and influence and are trying to figure this all out right now. So I think it's probably the dog who caught the car and doesn't know what to do with it, but is figuring it out.
See, there's no precedent for this with any previous disruption movement. An RFK getting a powerful position that directly speaks to his stated activism, like HHS secretary. The equivalent to this would have been like Reagan in 1980 making like Pat Robertson or Jerry Falwell Sr. Attorney General. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go out there and shut down all the pornographers and everything. You see what I'm saying? That level of power. During the Tea Party years, remember, the Obama administration was still in power. So pick whoever your favorite Tea Party person was at the time, and imagine instead that Romney won in 2012 and makes that person Secretary of Treasury or head of the Federal Reserve. You know what I mean? This is the equivalent of that. We've never seen anything like that, which both raises excitement levels, but also expectations. Because I can see why your people, Todd, think if we can't, under these circumstances, deliver here and now, then we probably never can. So we're going to keep the pressure on.
And with all the complaining we all do, and rightly so, about how feckless the Republicans are in Congress, these are the opposite.
Yeah,
they want something done, and they're going to make it happen one way or the other.
Matt, are you like me and seeing all these new people to our side posting sincerely and earnestly? Has the Republican Party been like this all the time? They don't pass any bills. What do they do? I had yes, that's the same reaction. I see these in my feed, and I've had the same reaction you just had is the same one I had. See, they've not been worked over by being in this party for as long as we have yet. They still have hope. Okay, it hasn't been snuffed out by the Republican Party. It hasn't broken them yet. Okay, go ahead, Matt. I'll give you the last word.
Would be more like a Joker. My laugh would be more like a Joker meme laugh.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very nihilistic, welcome to Thunderdome and Oblivion laugh. Yes. All right, let's get to the exit question. RFK Jr. has been on the job as HHS secretary for 65 days, I think, as of today. What letter grade would you give him so far and why, Aaron?
B+. I think, just that clip alone, I think, is emblematic of A, what he's up against, and B, what he is accomplishing and trying to accomplish. And the clip I'm talking about is where he goes after the purple-haired Congresswoman DeLauro and says, you have stated that you've wanted to get these dyes out of foods for the last 20 years. I did it in 100 days. What's your job? What are you actually doing around here? I think that is emblematic of what he's up against and what he has been able to accomplish so far.
Todd?
B.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I'm in the B+ range, but again, I don't know enough. I don't know enough about what they're working on and what's going on inside there. So, it feels a little B+ish right now. Yeah.
Okay, let's get to our kicker topic here with issue 4. Looks like the Democrats are trying to push out David Hogg as vice chair of the party. I think we're all shocked. No, we're not. So let's go get to the exit question then. Who should replace David Hogg as vice chair of the Democrat Party and why? Aaron.
Jeffrey Marsh.
True.
Yes.
Facts.
That's your answer too?
No, I have a different one. But
okay, go ahead.
That's true.
Right.
Jake Tapper.
That's also a very good answer. All right, Matt. What about you?
Well, in the interest of diversity, I have 3. I think you need 3 people to represent this, just because there's a lot of they, them. There's a lot of.
It's the party of gay, race, communism. So that would be 3. Yes.
So first is Zendaya, because she's in everything. She should be in this. And Pedro Pascal. They both are in every single movie. I think they both would represent all the movies. Pedro Pascal and Zendaya would represent the Democratic Party well. But because they're not dark enough, you'd also need a black person. And also, I don't know their sexuality, but I think we need a black tranny as well. That's what I think would be necessary if you pick those 2, just for the sake of the diversity needed. So I think a black transsexual and then Zendaya and Pedro Pascal would serve the purpose here.
You want to know what's funny is you meant that satirically. I promise you, these are the actual conversations that the Democratic National Committee is having. They don't sound much different from. I'm not kidding. They don't sound much different from what you just said. They're having those exact same conversations. I mean, if David Hogg was trying to play in primaries, but he did so as a black trainee, would they be trying to get rid of him? No. But he's doing so as we think straight.
Straight, white, young male.
Yes.
This is just a great idea. At the time that you're hemorrhaging support from his demographic.
Yes.
See ya.
All right, let's get to our predictions, Todd.
I am going with what I said about Tapper, but he's too hot right now. I'm making this prediction. It's kind of the Biden prediction. You're right about all that chaos, Steve, but they need somebody to kind of coalesce this thing. I think it's going to be Chuck Todd.
Wow. All right, Matt, what's your prediction?
I predict during the time that this Pope is Pope, there will be significant reform at the Vatican. And that could happen for two reasons. That could happen because he initiates it or just things reach the boiling point. But either way, I think we'll see significant reforms in terms of corruption during his tenure.
Okay. So I take that.
Also, just real quick, Americans are different than different governors than Italians, right? So that is a big deal that an American is in there because just right or left, Italians have not been known in the last 4 centuries for governance. So we'll see.
I take it that since you use the term corruption or reform in corruption, you view these, just to clarify, as positive reforms is how you view them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll either be forced upon them because this stuff just boils over, or this Pope will actually go after it.
Okay. All right, Aaron, what's yours?
Kevin has it. He's, I believe, an economic advisor, some advisor at the White House. He said last week that he believes this reconciliation package will be before the president to sign by July 4th. I know this is a really, really just fascinating prediction here. It's not going to be July 4th.
All right, so
low-hanging fruit.
Last week, man, after I saw those immigration tweets, man, I had a Vanta Black. All right, prediction on Pope Leo XIV. And then, like 1 week later, as I've learned more, I am at least a little optimistic that prediction I did not want to come true will not come true. Okay, so I'm going to make this prediction. I'm following this trend, on the hopes that I'm going to soon receive news that what I am predicting right here is actually not going to happen. All right, by speaking it out into the ether now. All right, and it doesn't occur, because what I can foresee happening is that there will be a provision to defund Planned Parenthood in the big, beautiful bill, but no real spending cuts. And as a result, you will see legacy pro-life organizations put pressure on real pro-life congressmen like Chip Roy, Thomas Massey, and a few others to sign up for something that violates almost every one of their other campaign vows in order for this one provision that may or may not even survive a conference committee in the United States Senate. And this entire thing becomes nothing but a circular firing squad of people just firing on one another, okay, that have spent much of their public lives actually working together at different points. I don't want this to happen, man. But I can see it coming. All right. I hear the train a-coming. It's rolling around the bend. I can hear it. I can hear the whistle of the train. And so I'm gonna throw this into the ether like I did with Pope Leo last week. All right. And in the hopes that a week or two from now, I'm gonna come back and say, all right, guys, I don't think that's right. I think we're good. All right. Because as of right now, this is what I think is gonna happen.
I wonder what Cory Mills thinks about that prediction.
Yikes. All right, Matt, we got to let you get back to work on that story, brother. Thank you very much. All right, take care. Hour 2 and your feedback is next. Stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2 live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here alongside Todd Erzen and Aaron McIntyre and all of you. And you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. And no, these are different glasses. You guys, some of you already emailed me about it. I don't have my new permanent ones yet. I just had to get different readers. My wife found way better ones. The ones I had yesterday were giving me a headache. So I know I'm just looking increasingly nerdier as the week goes on. All right. But I can actually read again. So I'm excited. All right. Which means I can read your notes like when you guys complain. All right. So email me, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. What else? Oh, yeah. Don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then if you are a podcast listener, make sure that you subscribe. Or if you're on iTunes and Apple, you hit follow or subscribe everywhere else. And that makes sure that every time we do a new episode, it's right there in your podcast feed for you to listen to it every single time. And you need to, you must. We mandate it, so to speak. You can also leave us a 5-star review if you don't mind that. And thank you to all of you that have done that for us. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you to our friends over at Jace Medical as well. Maybe you've heard about ivermectin and mebendazole. It is the new medication compound. It's all over your social media feed right now. That may, the operative term here being may, have some positive results if you're battling cancer, specifically with detoxifying the body, cleansing it to make it easier for your body to put up that fight. Our very good friend Megan Basham put out on X about a week ago that along with conventional treatments, she's made that a part of her regimen and pushing back on her cancer diagnosis. So if you want to get the brand new specific case, that's a 90-day supply of ivermectin and mebendazole, Jace is your fastest, most affordable option on the market to get that. And you can get it for about 35% less than you're going to find it anywhere else. You can get that 90-day compound supply today when you go to jace.com. That's jace.com, Jase. And if you use the code DACE at checkout, you'll get a discount on your order. That's also still where you can go to get your standard Jace case, or the one that you can customize and expand if you want to do that. And yes, my last name, Dace, is your promo code, works as a discount on all those orders too. Jace.com, Jase for Jace.com, promo code Dace at checkout for the discount. All right. Are you guys ready for some Feedback Friday?
Absolutely.
All right. Let us begin here. Stephen Newman writes, I'm driving down the interstate in a tractor trailer rolling at 74,000 pounds. Next time, before you give Todd so much time to rant, please give me a warning sooner. I'm trying not to laugh so hard that I can't maintain control of the vehicle. It's a good thing my license states I'm a professional driver. That rant was so salty, I thought I tasted seawater. This is your Pop Culture Tuesday rant earlier this week on college sports and NIL, when Aaron and I were just comparing which cigarette brand we were going to light up. Smoke them while we were going to smoke them if you got them, while you just essentially killed off a half an hour for us with your just stored up bile.
Just wait till he hears what you were doing while I was doing that.
Yes. Yes, I forgot about that part of it. Trolling you, actually. Karen, not that kind of Karen. It's always funny when somebody in our audience is named Karen. They always want me to know I'm not that kind of Karen. Karen says, hallelujah and pass the ammo. Maybe your best ever segment. I'm still laughing my fanny off from the comments from you and Aaron, but Todd's porn comment broke me. I'm laughing so hard my nose is running. Thank you guys all for the natural blood pressure medication. That's when Todd said Sports Bro is like a guy complaining about porn as he's watching porn, right? That's what you said, right?
These are the facts. This is a lock solid case. It's just up for the jury to decide if they're going to get in line.
All right. So, of course, we started with some positive feedback. I think we could use a little constructive criticism just to balance things out. Fair?
Depends.
Okay. Because I know you take this well. You do.
About what?
Constructive criticism. Aaron, everybody says that about him.
It depends on what it is. If it's about this topic, there's nothing to criticize.
He takes it very well. See, I told you. He takes it very well. Right? In fact, I'm quite confident Todd believes constructive criticism actually doesn't work or exist. There's just criticism.
I didn't. Okay. You're the one introduced in the show. If you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, what happens?
Correct. The one that yelps is the one you hit.
I think we're going to hear some yelping right now, right?
You might. Totally different topic, but I think
okay.
I think it needs to be addressed.
Oh, it's not this topic.
It does involve you, though, as well as me.
Oh, that's fair.
Okay.
If it's just me.
I'm sorry for this, Steve. So right away, you can probably tell he's not going to be very sorry. Okay. But it is necessary, as you and your show have fallen off a cliff. I'm a 56-year-old Christian man, so just a few years older than you and Todd. Therefore, I have a hard time believing that we are so different in our beliefs. I was raised in kind of a Catholic light faith. I lost my faith and then got it back years later. My father was a man of ambiguous faith, as is my mother. I was raised kind of classical in the South. We always dress and act according to the situation, occasion, and role we find ourselves in. I don't understand how you can continue to put on a show professing the level of social import and biblical worldview wearing a Superman t-shirt and clown clothes And here's where all of you will dismiss me as a petty moron. Cue comments, Todd. What about you, Steve? And shut up, Aaron. This isn't about you. That's not the first time he's going to say this. Steve, your messages are so correct and on point biblically, socially, and politically. Why would you choose to deliver those messages wearing underoos? Why don't you understand how important it is to look the part? Do you not understand that there is a substantial constituency of yours that dismiss you because you dress like a clown? Why was Zelensky criticized for dressing in gym clothes when he met with Trump? We can't take you any more seriously than you take yourself or than you take the blue-haired tranny lesbian homos at the Iowa State House. You are the same vision, but with a different message. Please correct the behavior and attire, and you will be rewarded. No more idolatry, please. No sports, no superheroes, no gay plaid Walmart shirts. I do buy some of those from Walmart, if we're being honest. Dress like an adult man, seriously. Now for Todd.
I hope it's that good.
You are so much worse than Steve. You send your daughters off to the sports bro gods just as soon as they come out of the womb. You sacrificed your own flesh and blood to the gods of sports and college academia when your faith has shown you how wrong that path is. The armor of God and Jesus doesn't work so well when we are alone in the face of demons. Our faith thrives in great numbers. That is why the family is so very important to our survival, both on earth and in Christ. What are you doing? What are all of you doing? Call your flocks home and protect them. Serve them as they serve you, as you all serve God. Shut up, Aaron. This isn't about you. But if you follow the same path, it will be. Gentlemen, I love and pray for you all. That's my favorite part. That's my favorite part. That's the next transition.
Did they sign it?
Yes. Yes, the road is narrow and you are in the ditch right now. Shut up, Aaron. This isn't about you. It's okay. I am here to tow you out. Maybe even I'll have to bury you in it. That's your choice. Thanks, and may God be with you all. Your friend, William P. Cutler.
The most biting criticism of all in that is that there's no criticism for me. I feel like I'm doing something wrong now.
No, you have the certified 100% biblical
that's
worldview.
right. Yeah.
Or it could be he just thinks you're such a lost cause that there's just no point in addressing it.
I pray it's that. I pray it's that.
Todd, how you feeling right now?
Great. Yelping. Just yelping. I mean, what I said last time, he verified he just made it up. So he's repeating my words because I know how on the mark they are. The fact that, the comparing one's children and what they choose to do and be excellent at to all the nonsense he's fixated on. I don't know. I thought that was a sonnet. That was beautiful.
In all seriousness, there are occasions that do require a certain form of attire, right? Like when we went to the White House, I was the one that said, hey, and not everyone did put on coat and tie like we did. There were a few people there that didn't quite dress like that, but who was the one that said for the entire team here what the uniform's going to be when we're there?
Yeah.
It was me.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to the White House. That's going to be coat and tie. All right. Especially, if we're going to be in the West Wing, it's going to be coat and tie for sure. Okay. So there are occasions for that. I do though. I've always found it curious how much in the church we debate clothing, and I'm not talking whether your, college-age daughter is home from the summer, for school for the summer, and shows up at church, where essentially, basically, a half an inch beneath her bra line is the only part of her torso, that is uncovered, right? I think we can all agree that no one needs to be dressing like that at church in any circumstance whatsoever. That's obvious stuff, right? Okay, right, okay. All right, that all being said, our Lord said the most important things anyone has ever said in all of human history. And by our standards, he pretty much wore a glorified bathrobe every day of his life. and at least every single day of his ministry. So it's always kind of perplexed me. I don't remember, I think it was like 15, 20 years ago, there was a huge survey done about why people leave churches. And the top 2 reasons were, what kind of music are we going to play? And how are we going to dress? You know? I mean, hey, if you think dressing up makes you feel like, you know, when God says to Moses, remove your shoes, you're on holy ground, I've got no problem with that at all. I've preached at churches where it was, you know, hey, this is what we do here. I respected their tradition and dressed accordingly. You know, if that is not as much of an issue to you, you know, I don't think that's an issue either. I just, the amount of time we spend outside of what are obviously formal settings, a wedding, a funeral, being in the West Wing of the White House, okay? The amount of time outside of actual formal settings that we spend arguing about what to wear and what not to wear, outside of really obvious things like, you know, don't have your son wear his neo-Nazi shirt and don't have your daughter dress like, you know, she's going to the club, okay, when you go to church. Outside of that, okay, I mean, the amount of time we spend arguing over this when our Lord would have spent virtually every day of his ministry on earth dressed in, by our standards, a glorified bathrobe. And he was barefoot in sandals. I've just always found that perplexing. Is that just me?
Can I play devil's metrosexual advocate?
By all means, this culture doesn't have enough of those.
First of all, are we taking this letter seriously then? This wasn't just a made up like.
Oh, I don't think it's ironic. No,
because I thought
you know what? I forgot.
I think
there's
parts of it.
There's a follow up in that I just got yesterday. Because I got this note 2 days ago, and I got a follow up yesterday that said your dress and performance today was much more professional, Steve, from the same guy. So I think he's serious.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Aaron. Sorry.
This is a very meta conversation, I think, or at least from my mind anyway, that I don't think is actually what is in mind when these are debated in the ways that you just laid out, Steve. However, there is something about right-wing thought my entire life, and really going back decades, maybe the past 100 years or so, that rugged individualism. I don't need anything. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. I can do it myself. I think that kind of aesthetic gives way, or at least promotes an aesthetic that is not refined.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Okay? I think that's a downside. We believe in terms of self-reliance, self-responsibility, but when it's associated with an aesthetic that is low status or low class, that's a downside. Mm-hmm. It need not be that way, but that is a downside. I think there's something to be said. Maybe there's something to be said. Again, I'm playing the devil's metrosexual advocate here. But
you do have 100% certified biblical worldview while doing so. So we defer, yes.
That the way you dress, the way that you present yourself, says a lot about what you think of yourself or what you think of the people you are around, that are around you. If you're dressing low status, what does that say? If you're dressing high status, what does that say? Do you understand what I'm trying to communicate?
Sure.
Now, is that the debate that's being had? No. It's just, you got to wear this because fill in the blank, made up rules. But I think I'm barking up a tree that maybe has not gotten barked up enough.
Well, I don't think this is about superhero T-shirts per se.
No.
But I think my notion of we become way too comfortable, we become way too casual. Steve said, every issue is ultimately theological. I think there's we've let go of the rope. This is like where the younger generations can't even operate they need to work from their bedroom and they have a hard time working at home. This is because I just need to be me. And there's a certain formality to things that matter. Now, as it applies to the superhero stuff, not just a T-shirt, but I am telling you what, as it applies to this Superman movie conversation and the comparing of the last two ones and constantly grown men commenting on which outfit is better, that is one of the gayest conversations I've ever seen.
See, that's the dividing line there, because both things are there's culturally and historically truth to both things. all right, which is the desire to be in a position of comfort all the time has made us soft. On the other hand, sitting around and pontificating about what other dudes are wearing, gay, very gay, very gay.
Well, that's...
I mean, listen,
I'm half expecting him to come out as gay in this movie the way the guys are talking about it.
Unless you show up, listen, his point on Zelensky, you show up in the friggin' Oval Office with your hand out, okay? And you're wearing the stupid fatigue uniform, jersey, costume that you've been wearing for 3 years and you've never even actually been out in the field. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's an insult. You know what I mean? Okay. But
like, yeah. So grown men have become infantilized in many, many, many ways. The stuff they spend their time thinking about, doing, the way they wear, it's all combined.
All right, let's move on. This one's from John Wills in Amarillo, Texas. Says, I am writing to let you guys know that you are correct to give Trump a chance on reining in prescription drug prices. A few years ago, my wife was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. The progression of the disease was fast. The rheumatologist was trying several cocktails of drugs to find one that would work. If they couldn't find the correct mix of drugs, my wife in her late 40s was going to be in a wheelchair and not be able to use her hands to even sign her name. After several failures of drugs, we were, by the grace of God, able to find one that worked. It was called Rinvoq. Now, the cost of Rinvoq in the United States is about $7,500 a month. Also, by the grace of God, we have excellent insurance that covers all but $500 a month. That is our copay. But the same drug in Canada is only $1,700 a month, which would significantly lower our copay for the prescription. So for all the people that wrote in with their comrade rhetoric, I can promise you they are one disease away from thanking Donald Trump for at least discussing this. For there is nothing worse than watching someone you love suffer from a disease. Also, the rhetoric about generic drugs, that doesn't hold either. Drug companies have it where generics are not available for the 12 to 16 years after a drug is introduced. I'm a free market guy myself, but we're honest, we haven't had a free market in America where this industry is concerned for decades. Lobbyists and special interests control everything, and the government partners with the businesses, and the government's partnerships with these businesses and lobbyists have done away with the free market a long time ago. That's what we were laying out. Every 40% of all dollars spent on healthcare in America are from the federal government, Medicaid and Medicare. And we're not even getting to then if your state has its own version of a Medicaid or something like that as an offset, like we had the Hawkeye program in Iowa for many years. Then, of course, the government is the one that is setting all the rates in many cases via Obamacare. That's a cartel, guys. That's not a market, okay? Thank you guys for all you do. Keep up the good work. And on a side note, I want you to know that I think your show has the best 1 hour of broadcasting compared to any other podcast I live to at the Deace Group. I look forward to it to more than anything else every single Friday. So thank you, John. Appreciate that. Here's the thing, just to put another finer point on this. I am not against Marxism or socialism because they violate my worldview. It's the other way around. They violate my worldview by having proven that they are not what is best for the human condition. They do not line up with what is good, true, and beautiful, and therefore I am against them. This isn't a quiz bowl. This isn't a philosopher battle royale. This isn't, hey, you know what, man? René Descartes, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, one of those guys, man. I don't ever ponder lint in my navel like I do when fill in the blank talks. That's not what this is. It's it's real clear, okay? What alleviates human suffering in this world? Particularly unnecessary human suffering. What would be the necessary reason that the Rinvoq drug costs $1,700 in Canada and $7,500 here? What's a good reason that would be the case?
How bad?
All the reasons are bad. All the reasons are bad. All the reasons are bad. Okay?
And just, if I may, ivermectin. Think about that.
Yes.
Something that works too well, so you can't have it. This drug may actually be a lifesaver, and actually in a lot of ways. And we can't have that. We need you to stay sick.
There is no culture that's ever been made better by these ideologies. That's why I'm against them. I'm not against them because they're not my ideologies. It's because they're not what's good for people, that they're not my ideologies. It's the other way around, right? I mean, I once heard T.D. Jakes say that he's a Christian, that he's a Christian because it works for me, so it must be true. Wrong, okay? It's true, which is why it works for you. You have it backwards, okay? Totally backwards. Now, I understand the argument that says this is a variation of the very ideology that got us into this place. I'm willing to admit you might be right about that. Let's see. The president, if what Trump is determining to do here causes prices to increase, I'll oppose it. Because then we didn't alleviate human suffering, did we? Right. No. My analysis is we are so down the rabbit hole here that some kind of, finger snap that immediately we just take out the status system and plug in the market-based system isn't a feasible thing, right? I once weighed 400 pounds. Now I weigh about, 240. It took like 12 years to undo all of that. If I live a typical lifespan for a white American male in America right now is 78, 79. The 12 years that it took for me I'm still like 30 pounds heavier than I was when I graduated from high school. So the 12 years about that it has taken me to lose all that weight I put on. And if I lived 79 years, that would be what? 20% of my life? 10% of my life? Not about 30% of my life, right? I think it's about right. I'm doing the math in my head. I think it's about 30% of my life it took. You just don't undo things like this overnight. So, because I could not lose the weight all at once, should I have never even tried to do what I could to lose what I could, to alleviate the suffering on myself that I could at any given moment. Plus, I did it via stages. I couldn't bring myself then to the discipline to do it all. I'm just take 1 year and lose. I couldn't do it. I had to do it in stages. I had to lose 30 pounds here. 1 year I did lose 100 pounds. Then I kind of put like 30 more back on. Then I had to lose that. I mean, we are a second generation into these schemes. The amount of people that are relying on them right now to meet ends meet is high. So we have to ask ourselves then, what takes priority? Philosophical fealty, philosophical exactness, or alleviation of human suffering? My math says alleviation of human suffering. Now, I agree that the long-term math, this doesn't add up. This ain't going to work long-term. Okay? But right now, we're just talking about right now. When I first started losing weight, it was pretty obvious just losing 30 pounds wasn't going to do it. But I needed to talk about what could I do today. Is what I'm saying make any sense at all?
Yeah, I mean, what alleviates human suffering? I'm convinced some people would respond by saying viral clips of Milton Friedman from the 80s.
Yes.
As good as he is, but that's not the point. Americans at large just do not know truly what healthcare is. What is actually? Most people think that healthcare is getting to go to the doctor anytime I have the sniffles, or I'm concerned, or about this, or I've got.
I'm paying the least amount out of pocket I can.
Least amount. Yeah, that's what healthcare is to most people. Healthcare is actually taking care of yourself, not having somebody else fix your sicknesses that many times are probably chronic or probably lifestyle issues. But to the so people don't know what healthcare is. I am not convinced that healthcare or health insurance is actually something where a free market can work. I'm not convinced of that. However, to the extent that it can work, it is completely and wholly undone by people not knowing what healthcare is. Mm-hmm. We are in the worst of all worlds. when it comes to this industry in this country. Mm-hmm. And it's only going to get, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news on Friday. It's only going to get worse until people start taking care of themselves again and understanding what that actually truly entails.
Right on.
Why do you think, with zero rhetorical flourish, I tell you, if you gave most Christian parents an option of whether they're going to vaccinate them or baptize them, they'd choose vaccination? It's because of what Aaron just said.
So we've been teasing the coverage that our network has done on what's going on with Cory Mills. That's just part of the exclusive coverage we do here on Blaze. If you want to get it all, now's a great time to become a subscriber to Blaze TV. You can get it at a discounted subscription using my last name as your promo code DACE at blazetv.com/DACE. That's blazetv.com/DACE. Subscribe today with the promo code DACE. You'll get $20 off your annual subscription, which will bring your subscription down to about, I think it's like $8 a month, 26 cents a day if you do the math. A lot of you are spending $8 a day on those coffees you love. Okay, so now you can get Blaze TV for a year for $8 a month. All right, when you go to blazetv.com/DACE, that's blazetv.com/DACE, and use the promo code DACE at blazetv.com/DACE. Because a lot of the people that are critical of the position I took on this do come from a camp that I have traditionally in my career been native to. Okay, so what I'm about to say next, I mean for this to be constructive advice. If you want to ever be relevant in politics again, you're going to have to make the case, and your messaging is going to have to center around not a philosophical exercise, philosophical precision, philosophical platitudes. You're going to have to make the case and offer explicit suggestions that what you want to do instead would do the better job of alleviating human suffering. One of the things my buddy Chip Roy is doing really well right now in pushing back on the big, beautiful bill, and I'm watching these interviews he is doing.
Yep.
All right. And he's not just giving like some, we're just going through the spreadsheet here, guys, and the numbers don't add up. He is connecting dots. All right. You really want to help the American people. We have to we've got to lessen the debt load. Here's how it impacts how much money we're spending on interest rates and everything else in your average home. He is putting this around. Not that, guys, I read the Thomas Sowell Handbook to the 1980s. By the way, I love the Thomas Sowell Handbook to the 1980s, okay? But he's not doing it. I read the Thomas Sowell Handbook to the 1980s, guys, and I am confident this is not in there. That's not what he's doing. He is making a case that what he wants to do and the people like him want to do is would be better for the alleviation of the suffering of the American people than the current iteration of the quote-unquote big, beautiful bill. Way different messaging. And right now, frankly, a lot of you come off as self-righteous know-it-alls. And this is why you're losing. Because, the factions like MAHA are out there actually saying, we don't care, give us solutions. Now, we can't be reactionary all the time either, right? But we got to be reactionary at least some of the time, right?
Trump sounds a lot more like Kirk than he does like Spock, and people love that.
Correct. But you guys kind of sound a lot more like Spock. Now, here's the thing. Kirk and Spock, best of friends, they kind of need each other, right?
Sure.
All right. So start figuring out, then will my options alleviate human suffering better than the ones that I don't like? And if not, well, that's kind of a you problem. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. Let's get right back to some Feedback Friday, if you guys are okay with that.
Yes.
All right, let's go here. Dustin says, I live in Colorado, and a friend of mine, a devoted Christian raising his young children on a solid biblical foundation, feels indifferent about the bills happening in our legislature right now, specifically Colorado Bill 1312. We highlighted it quite a bit on the show earlier about a month ago, right? He says that he trusts that Jesus is in control and isn't stirred by the debate. Could you address this perspective on your podcast? How might Christians balance trust in God's sovereignty with engagement in civic matters like this bill? Dustin, I'm going to tell you right now, okay? I would say this to your friend's face. If this level of evil can be presented to you, And it is happening within a jurisdiction that you are specifically empowered to stand against it. As I'm assuming he's your friend, he's a resident of Colorado. And you can't be bothered. I have to question whether you're a Christian. You might be an excellent moralist and pietist, but I just there is no Christian that I can think of in the entire history of the faith, Genesis to Revelation. There is no rationale within orthodoxy to indifference to evil. I mean, this is why we created hospitals, orphanages. The closest thing you could say would be the Anabaptists. But here's the thing: you didn't say your buddy was one of those. Like, did he? The Anabaptists created their movement also in response to evil. They just said the world is so evil we can't overcome it, so we're going to just largely depart from it and live quiet lives of contemplation and faithful obedience until Christ returns. Is your friend Amish or Mennonite? Is he so devoted to his belief that the evil, the kingdoms of this world cannot be overcome until Christ returns, that he has then given up the benefits of living as a modernist? Has he done that? If so, I'll respect that then, because that you've at least answered. You've come up with an answer to the reality of evil. It may not be the answer I like, might not be the answer I agree with, but I loved Mel Gibson's movie that he made about, 10 years ago, about the famous pacifist from World War II that Andrew Garfield was in. That was an incredible film, okay? Now, I don't believe pacifism is a biblical doctrine at all. But you know what I do believe? That guy in that film was so devoted to it and his belief that it was, that even though I don't agree with his interpretation of Scripture, in fact, I strongly disagree with it, you saw fruit of the Spirit in his life by his own devotion to his cause, and he bravely engaged onto the battlefield, even if it was just in a passive manner, but it was also very confrontational and going out there on his own to save as many lives of his countrymen as he possibly could. So I just don't, there is no idea of passivity within Scripture. It doesn't exist. This idea of passivity in the face of evil doesn't exist. Even if you're committed, you're a Quaker, you're a Mennonite, you're some form of Anabaptist, you're Amish, what have you. Even in those cases, you are acknowledging there is real evil in the world and you are seeking to insulate yourself from it by largely departing from the world and giving up its modern conveniences. That's a level of great conviction to do that, right? You're giving up a lot of the things, the modern world, in recognition of evil. So is your friend one of those? No? So he's a modernist and can't be bothered. That's just not biblical to the core, man. And frankly, I think that if he's a fellow dude, that needs to be confronted, not politely reasoned with. Sounds to me like your friend has had his fill of polite reasoning and gotten all the wrong inclinations from it. That's what it sounds like to me.
I bet he has an opinion on Deion Sanders and the win total for Colorado football.
He may.
This season.
He may.
You know, last summer, if I may interject.
Sure.
Last summer, one of many occasions, similar occasions, I was getting Ben out of the car. We were walking through the garage into the house. I thought he was right behind me. I opened the door, looked behind me. He was gone. I walked out of the garage trying to figure out where he'd went. In about 10 or 15 seconds, he was already running in the middle of the street. And I yelled out to him, Ben, Jesus is in control. And then I walked into the house. No, that is dumb. That's stupid. It's my job to protect him. And so I yelled out to him and I chastised him, and he received discipline for running into the middle of the street, which he knew better than to do. That's my job. I'm his dad. You're a Christian. You are in this world. You are not of this world, but that doesn't mean you're not in this world. I don't.
Yeah.
I really don't understand the thinking at all.
I don't.
I'm not able to. I'm sorry. I'm not able to understand this.
When Peter, well, we got to try because we got to fix it. When Peter said something like this to the Lord said, "Get behind me, Satan. This thing is about the cross. The cross isn't hunting me. I am actively going to it to defeat sin for all time. Active, doing. Faith without works is dead. This is all... We have to. We have to deal with this, and we have to deal with it harshly, quite frankly, because this is stupid and weak. And it seems to me obviously so, but it seems to be a default pattern, not of the leftist chick in who held the service in Trump, the Episcopalian Church. These people, I think they consider themselves conservative and orthodox. What is this? It cannot stand.
I don't understand how someone could possibly have. I understand how someone could say the evil is too prevalent and we have to therefore retreat from the world in response to it. And I have such a conviction to that end that I will then give up the conveniences of that same modern world that's the purveyor of the evil I want to avoid. I understand that. I respect that. There's a consistency there. What is completely inconsistent is I live within modernity and still cannot be bothered by real evil while calling myself a believer. That's just beyond inconsistent, man. I can't rationalize it.
The images in the Passion of the Christ where the Lord falls, but it shows him. It's kind of subtle, but it's theologically deep. He goes back to the cross as often as he can. He knows that's his job. He's not trying to crawl away from it. He goes back to it. What are you going back to in these moments when you say you're not going to do anything? I think we all know the answer to that. You've got quite a hobby farm, don't you?
Let's go to this one from Brian. I've been on a local school board. I've been on our local school board for almost 6 years now. I ran for the board after hearing the saying, "We are the leaders we've been waiting for." A few meetings ago, we were going over policies and I saw the wording of gender identity was being taught in a health enhancement sex ed class. We had the option to allow parents to opt out of this, and that was our only say in the matter because the state of Montana tells us what to do in the classroom. That's it. Of course, I'm a sheep and cattle rancher and went on a rant and offered to have the students come to my place where we work our animals, and I would show them how simple it is to identify whether someone is male or female. Just look at the bottom side, etc. By the way, this is recorded as we have some of the strictest open meeting laws. The state of Montana has a governor, House, and Senate with an R after their titles, and this is what we get, this kind of BS. The board had a, quote, board training with our attorney. I asked him what could be done. He said we have to follow the laws set by the state. My question is, local control apparently means nothing then? So my question to you is, what's next for me? I know that's for me to answer, but I would like some advice. Do I run for state office in some form? I'm not too excited about that. I feel the school board may become a waste of my time. By the way, my school has about 100 students K through 12 in a very small district in rural South Central Montana. Brian, you asked me for marching orders, brother, and I have them for you. You're going to defy the state, Brian. That's what you're going to do. You're going to tell the state, we're not doing that here. And if your attorney doesn't like it, get a different one. This country was not founded by people who did what the centralized bureaucracy commanded that they must do, but by those who did not, my friend, by those who did not. Nothing says Montana cattle rancher quite like, I'm just here grabbing my ankles, doing whatever people in Helena tell me I have to do, no matter how stupid, gay, and retarded it is. Boy, that just reeks of cattle rancher to me. How about you guys? Rugged individualism out there, Marlboro man, man of the soil. No, come on, man.
That sounds like his problem, though, is that he's one of 5 and the rest
starts with 1.
It starts with 1, but unfortunately you don't have individual power. You only have power as a voting member of a board, but you're on the board, and that's no small thing. Be a legend.
Yeah, go back to the people that put you on that board and have them come and pressure the rest of the board for you.
Don't just make that speech. You need to make this video and make it go viral.
Absolutely.
People have done this. F around and find out, and they show the graph. Do something funny and smart like that. Make it go viral. And then maybe 4 other people will primary the other 4 people who don't have the courage to do what's done. And then you're a group of 5. And then you can do exactly what Steve said. We're not doing that. Come and get us.
Yes. What we're telling you, Brian, is this is how movements are formed. This is how they happen. Okay? And movements happen by multiplication, not by addition, but they always have to start with 1. Because 0 times 0, as we always say, is what?
Still 0.
Still 0. And so therefore, it's got to start with 1. Okay? We have to multiply by 1. There has to be 1. And man, I can't think of anybody better to sign up and say, I'm your Huckleberry. I'll be that guy. Than a self-reliant rancher from Montana. I mean, to me, I wouldn't be frustrated at all. You just found out why you won your race, Brian. You just found out why the Lord tarried for you to be on that school board. He's not shocked or surprised by any of this, Brian. That's why you're there. Okay? You're there for the conflict. Man, I got some heat yesterday. You were right. Especially because I repeated on my Facebook page. I got some heat yesterday for saying, if you have not been willing to suffer for anything, you should seriously doubt whether you are a Christian. And some people lost their minds. And I said, first of all, I didn't say if you aren't suffering, you're not a Christian. Is that what I said? That's not what I said. No. But I said, if you're not willing to suffer for anything you believe, then you should ask yourself if you are one. And someone wrote back to me, well, some people live quiet lives of faithful obedience. I said, there's no such thing as a quiet life of faithful obedience. Because if you're faithfully obedient to the word of God, then you are still battling your own flesh every single day. Every day, if you're a believer, you wake up, you've got one of 3 enemies, if not all 3 at the exact same time: the world, the flesh, and the devil. And the flesh is you. So the influences of this world, the desires of your flesh, and the enemy of your soul. You wrestle against one, if not all 3 of them, every single day as a believer. There is no Pleasant Valley Sunday, charcoal burning everywhere. That doesn't exist, guys. That does not exist. They even tried this. They built monasteries. And then the priests that went there were like, crap, man, we're still wrestling with our own flesh. All right? So there was no point. The battle is wherever you go. That's also, by the way, while I respect Amish, Mennonite, Quaker traditions, that's why I'm not one of them. You're still going to face the same battle anyway. You can't avoid it. I believe we just did Romans 7 earlier this year, correct? The guy who wrote most of the New Testament.
But everybody,
including Romans 7, the good I want to do, I don't. The evil I don't want to do, I do. What a wretch am I? Why do I have these desires? Why am I fighting myself? There's no such thing as a struggleless Christianity. It does not exist. There is no such thing as a non-suffering Christian faith. It does not exist. Because every day you are wrestling against either the influences of this world, the temptations and desires of your own flesh, or the enemy of your soul. And some days you're going to be wrestling with all 3. So there is no, just because you're not Joan of Arc, doesn't mean the devil just left you and your family alone.
The simple fact of the matter is a specific belief, and now I'll get the letters, which is fine, because it's not fair for Steve to have all of them, because what he did was in good faith. But a specific belief that you are now, I'm not even talking about the head knowledge now, but this is clearly messing people up in the heart, that you are amongst the elect means you don't have to do any, and you can't lose that. It means you're permanently in park. And if you're responding to Steve when he really said something in good faith like that and critically, we're back in dog yelping territory. Maybe you got a look. Maybe you saw a look in the mirror that you didn't like very much. I think you need to deal with that.
I can't think of an era in the history of Christendom where the idea of a sufferingless faith, a struggleless faith, was institutionalized within the mainstream of church orthodoxy. I can't think of that's ever happened I'm in the history of the church, except for the modern contemporary American church. I can't think of another era. Not when we weren't tempted to succumb to it, but I mean, this is like an institutionalized hermeneutic within the modern American church. That's not how this works, guys.
We're way too comfortable.
But that's just not how it works. I mean, I'm doing the most important work of my life. Maybe the most important work I will do my entire life is the work I did in 2020 and into 2021. And at the same time I'm doing that work, I am fighting the world. At the same time I'm fighting the world of flesh, and I'm fighting the world and the devil here on the show, I'm going home at night and fighting my own flesh. The idea that this is a struggleless process. No, it's not. No, it's not.
The struggle is the process.
Yes.
But Steve, what about that parable when it said in the Bible, it's really cool to take your talents and bury them because Jesus loves that.
Depart from me, you wicked servant, into the den of iniquity. I never knew you.
Yes. What part of the biblical literates, like how many pages of their Bible are actually ripped out? That's what I need to know.
Well, that's why we did that evergreen about a year ago. About the portions of the scriptures your pastor, your gutless American megachurch pastor won't preach. Quite a lot. I don't know that there's ever been an amount of self-editing of the Bible while also claiming to be orthodoxy also in the entire history of the Christian church, except for right now in modern America.
But that one,
there is no conversation that makes me want to doom, and I'm saying this seriously. I'm not making a joke. I'm not saying this for effect. There's no conversation, not the stock market, not macroeconomics, not any turmoil, not any racial strife, none of that makes me want to doom prep, serious doom prep, more than these conversations.
Because a parable was written to address just what we're talking about, not really complicated Paulian stuff. The simple people, don't do that. Don't just sit there and do nothing. Jesus said that, and you said he didn't.
Have a great weekend. Romans 8:28.